So who doesn't like homemade hummus? And you know, you can start with real dried garbanzo beans or the ones in the can. It's not going to make any difference. Your hummus will still come out great if you do this little trick. I'm going to put in some baking soda. And the baking soda helps break down the skins on the outer part of the chickpeas to allow your hummus to come out smoother. The last time I made it, I was unhappy with it because it, to me, had a little bit of a grit to it. So I'm hoping that this new trick is going to work just fine. We're going to cover the chickpeas with water, put the baking soda in, and let them cook for 20 minutes. And then we're going to strain them and then use that to make the base of our hummus. We'll be back. Now I'm using this ginormous pot because I know that these are going to bubble up on me. You can see there's already a lot of froth in the pan. So I know the baking soda is going to make these boil up, and I don't want them to boil over. I'm probably got a little overkill here for the size of the pot that I needed, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. All right, we'll be back to show you what these look like after 20 minutes. All right, I thought we'd take a little peek at what we've got going on here with our chickpeas. It's hard to get the camera up here without the steam, so you can kind of see what's going on. They haven't bubbled up much, so I would have been okay with a smaller pot, but I didn't know with the baking soda, so I didn't want to take a chance. But we're going to let these go for about 8 more minutes. So after about 20 minutes, you can see the skins started coming off here. It's hard because it's steaming up my camera, but see, I got them sitting in the sink right now. We're going to drain them into this colander. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll be back in just a minute. So what we're going to do is we're running cold water over them, try and release some of those skins, and we're going to get rid of some of that mushy texture as well that kind of happened all around them. And then once we know we've rinsed these good, we'll put them, and they're cooled off, we'll put them in the food processor with the rest of our ingredients. This was all the stuff that strained out of my boiled chickpeas. Look, it's pretty thick down there with all that skins. So as you can see, there's still a little left in the pan, in the strainer here, and we poured them into our food processor. As you know, if you weren't going to boil them, you still would have had the skins anyway. So the skins aren't going to hurt you. All right, we're going to go ahead and add in other ingredients, and we'll be back. Okay, so let's make some hummus. And we started by boiling down our chickpeas with a little bit of baking soda. That was 2 cans of chickpeas, so we used a whole teaspoon of baking soda. But if it was only 1 can, you'd only use a half. And we boiled them for 20 minutes and then rinsed them off to cool them off and get some of those hulls off the outside of the chickpeas. This is always going to have some of the chickpea hull, the skin, in it. Don't worry about that. It's not a big deal. What is a big deal is make sure that you're using tahini. So tahini, in case you don't know, is a ground puree of roasted sesame seeds. Now, I bought this one. It's relatively inexpensive in the grocery store, but I'm told the better tahini you get, the better your hummus will be. I don't necessarily buy into that, but anyway, let's take a look and see what that looks like. Now, what will happen, tahini is kind of like peanut butter. It will start to coagulate, and you got to stir it and make sure that you get this nice creamy consistency to start with. Just think of it like creamy peanut butter, where sometimes if you get really good peanut butter, the oil gathers on the top. We are going to need lemon juice. Lemon juice is very important to this recipe, as well as garlic. We're going to be putting in some cumin. We're going to need ice water because that's what makes our hummus fluffy. We're going to use some salt, and of course we're going to use olive oil. We're actually going to use a half a cup of olive oil, I believe, in this recipe, but we're going to kind of see how this goes as we make it. This is definitely one of those recipes that you're going to want to get some tasting spoons for and taste along the way. Taste for texture, taste for saltiness, taste for garlickiness, and make sure you can taste the tahini coming through, that sesame oil coming through in your hummus, but not too much. So we're going to be back in just a second here as we get to mixing. We're going to be starting with, just so you know, the tahini and the lemon juice. Those are the first two ingredients that are going to go into our food processor. So we're going to be back just to show you what that's looking. Tahini and our lemon juice in the food processor. We're going to go ahead and mix that up. Next, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add in our cumin, our ice water, and we're going to be putting more ice water in, but right now I just want to put in a little bit of it, and our garlic. And we're going to just let this process up for just a couple of minutes. We're going to go ahead and just add, mix all of those ingredients up, and then we'll be back in just a moment to add in the chickpeas. What it's looking like when we stop the processor. So now let's go ahead and add in our chickpeas. Get them all in there. Like I said, we're probably going to need a little bit more water. We're going to add in that, and we're going to add in our olive oil. Those are the last two ingredients. So it's going to be a half a cup of olive oil that we'll be adding in here. If we were doing 1 can, it would be a 1/4 cup. But again, this is one of those recipes where you taste along the way to see how it's coming and to see if you need a little additional. So I'm going to go ahead and drop in my olive oil. We'll be back to show you what that looks like. What I want to show you here is how fluffy and creamy this looks. Look at it. Doesn't that look amazing? Let's give it a little taste and see where we're at. It's delicious. I'm choking on it. It's delicious. It could use a little more salt and maybe just a hint more garlic or a hint more lemon to give it a little flavor. You could also mix some Kalamata olives in here if you wanted to. Whatever you want to do with this. At this point, it's entirely up to you. I'm going to go ahead and just put a little more salt and maybe a little bit more lemon and process this through. Normally, I'm a big fan of garlic, but I don't want to make it too chunky. All right, we'll be back. And there you have it. There is our creamy, fluffy hummus. I dressed it up with a few olives, a little olive oil. You can see drizzled there, some black pepper, and a piece of parsley because we're taking this over to a friend's tonight for our Mediterranean meal with everything that we made today for our Mediterranean cooking meal prep. But anyway, so it's in a plastic container. Normally I would have put it in a really pretty bowl for you. Anyway, hope you enjoy.